Aye, a bunch. All right, we're good to go. Good evening, folks. Tonight is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. This is the Town of Litchfield Recreation Commission, and we will call the meeting to order, and we'll start by calling the roll. My name is Peter Ames. I'm the chair of the commission. Andy Ruggles, vice chair. Mike Bosky, member.
Present.
Jeff Town, member.
Present.
Absent with Donis is Judy Brennan and Steve Weber, and member Chris Burns may be joining remotely shortly. All right. Folks, remind me, if Chris does join, we need to vote to allow him to be a voting member tonight remotely. We'll see. All right, we do have 4 members present, so we have a quorum, so that'll bring us to our first point of business, approval of the August 8th minutes. Have folks had a chance to review the minutes?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, can I get a motion on the August 8th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Looks good to me.
All right, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion
Aye.
passes 3-0-1. Next, we'll move to public input. There are no members of the public in the room tonight and none online, I do not believe, and so we will close public input. All right, next we'll move to facility and field requests. We have a couple. One for the Field Youth Soccer League, looking for Innis Fields and Sawmill for practice in games. For 2 sets, Mondays and Fridays, 4 to 9, beginning on the 21st, yesterday, through November 11th, as well as Saturdays and Sundays, 9 to 6. No one is present to speak to that, but if members had a chance to review the request.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I did not see any conflicts on the calendar.
No, there's nothing on there right now.
Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve Litchfield Soccer's request.
Second.
Motion is a second, and we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Being on the board still, on the soccer board. The COI isn't ready yet. We get it from the state. It runs 9/1 through 8/31 every year. The state likes to take its time issuing that COI, so hopefully we'll get it before 9/1. If not, it'll be whenever they give it to us.
All right.
But that's unfortunately the way it happens every year. They get behind
Is there still a current one through August?
through the end of August.
Okay, so that's the one we have on file existing. Okay, all right. So we just need to confirm on 9/1 before those first games in September that we have it active. Okay. Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, passes 3-0-1. All right, next we have 2 requests from Spirit of Litchfield. One coming up on September 9th for a car show at Romeo Park and Talent from 11:30 to 5. Let's take that one first. Sorry.
What's the date of the event that we have going on? Do you recall?
The Fall Fest?
Yeah.
It's in October.
It's in October. Okay.
Yep.
So there's nothing going on in there?
I don't believe so. Let me just quickly check the calendar. Give a glance before. Ninth is a Saturday. It looks open.
And who's the actual organizer of it? So it's Spirit of Litchfield it's going through?
It is, yeah,
Okay.
should be under our.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Spirit of Litchfield to use Roy Memorial Park and Talent Hall for a car show on September 9th from 11:30 to 5 p.m.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there a discussion?
Is there anything, I'm trying to figure out what the dates were and everything for
For the Plex.
the,
and softball.
yeah.
No, I'm not sure.
That
I was thinking the same.
started in October. Yeah. Oh, I know I had it up. So I had a little bit of challenge updating the calendar, but I thought I got it all squared away, but
It's Marissa. Here it is. They're on beginning 9/24. So we should be good.
there, okay. Okay, it is there. Yep, all right. Thank you.
So the car show will be similar to what we had in July. Is that,
That's what it looks like from the, yeah.
was pretty well attended.
Further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries 4-0-0. Alright, so now we'll take the second Spirit of Litchfield request for the annual Christmas in Litchfield event, which will be on December 9th, 2023, from 9 to 9. And this is for all fields at Roy and Talent Hall.
So that's just like their Christmas event.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it looks like same as it has been the last couple of years.
And we usually work around with whoever's books it and stuff to.
Right, yeah, because that could be a pickleball time during that
Right.
Saturday.
Shouldn't be a problem though. All right, I'll make a motion to approve Christmas in Litchfield at Roy Memorial Park and Talent Hall December 9th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second?
Motion is second, is there a discussion?
Yeah, basketball is on the calendar for Talent Hall at that
Yep, so I think we will
morning.
need to negotiate that one for talent, yep. Yeah, I
Is
mean,
is it set up again, or for Spirit of Litchfield, is that,
I mean, most of their stuff has been outside, they've had the inside for, I mean, they've done a couple different ways, right? For,
right?
I would hope the basketball could accommodate them for that one-off, but they do have it reserved.
I will email Trixie Gardner and pending their approval. I think we should approve it, given that it's a one-off.
Bump basketball for that day.
Well, not even bump it, just ask them if that would be possible, and if not, then it's not.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure something else out.
Yeah, I mean, we still do the fields, right? The fields
Yeah.
are open.
Yeah, the outside is still good.
But I don't see basketball not, in support of that event.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, honestly, I think sometimes I thought, like, the event is at night, right? Normally,
It is, yeah. It's mostly for setup during the.
right?
Yeah, I don't know why they want to start at 9 a.m. for that, unless they're doing something different this year.
My guess it would be setup. And I wonder, actually, I don't even know. It says decorations over to Town Hall? I don't know. I mean, we can ask, like, we asked Spirit of Litchfield too, like, do they need Town Hall? Did they request that just to, because they need to get in there for setup, or they plan to set up starting at that time as well? Like, clarification on both ends.
Yeah.
To see if there's some sort of,
Yeah, and they may be setting up
really
outside at 9 a.m., but inside's not till 4 or something
Right.
like that. So maybe we need to clarify with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say we can probably work it out with the two of them.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, sounds like we still got a motion. We agree that we're gonna approach both organizations to try and negotiate some kind of compromise that works for both parties. If not, basketball has it reserved first, and that's what it would default to.
Yep.
All right, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 4-0. All right, to confirm there were no other field or facility requests that folks saw, right?
Nope.
All right. So we'll move on then to new business. So we've had a couple conversations about the best process for dealing with timely, certainly field and facility requests, but other requests as well that occur in between meetings, where if someone needs access to talent because of weather or one of the school fields isn't usable, those things do come up. How we can best go about approving those in a way that the public has access to that process. So we talked about a couple different ways we could do that. We could certainly call a special meeting for that, get it noticed and posted. Or if there's a way we can also just share the communications publicly during that process. So open this up in a second. I think just my thoughts on it are, the timeliness is kind of paramount for the needs, because I would hate for someone to be blocked because of an administrative challenge, right?
Yep.
Because it's often very acute, and it is like something happened to their plan, right?
Right.
So we don't want to hold them up. If there's a way that we can agree that these are the ways we're going to go about kind of being transparent about how the process happens, that would be good, just so we do it consistently going forward. So we'd welcome opinions about how best to do that. If it's a special meeting, another way we can post our communications.
Is it reasonable, I mean, we could authorize you to approve those requests and then, just mention it at the next regular meeting, so that it's, recorded. But if there are no conflicts and somebody wants to use something, I don't see a reason to have a special meeting.
Agreed. And just further on that, I think most of the requests are generally stuff that we've already approved. So maybe that's our criteria for this, is that, as long as it's a previously approved use of town hall, the chair has the authority to grant access for that day, or for a schedule change or something, and then it needs to get read into the next minutes, just for transparency.
Needs to be
We're
read
not
in.
talking about,
I agree with reading the next minutes, and usually the turnaround is usually same day or the next day, which usually is gonna preclude trying to even schedule a special meeting.
Yeah, that's true.
So the question comes down to is, by approved, do we mean extensions, or what do we mean by prior approval? Because again, if all of a sudden softball wants to go in, tomorrow, we haven't approved it, but town hall's open. So it's more of a, approval for organizations that have already have insurance submitted,
Yeah.
viable insurance, viable, state background check if necessary. And, we have, their organization on file. That's pretty much what it comes down
They've
to.
been approved for some use
Right.
before.
Because
Yeah.
you can't go down the road of saying that they've already been approved for
well,
what they're doing.
I'm not talking like this year. I'm talking in the last 3 years. They've come to us and been able to use the building.
Correct. Like they're approved organization is what we were.
Exactly.
Because if you want to say, I was worried the way you first said it, it's like an extension of what their use was. So like basketball, had 4 weeks approved. They came and asked for a 5th week. okay, it's part, we're just extending what they requested, as opposed to an organization that we've approved in the past that has everything up to date, coming in and saying, we need a one-off for this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, not what I meant. You know,
Right.
cleared that up.
I think either one of those,
Oh,
Would be
you mean, and I think the second, yeah, you mean, I think the first one falls under the second one covers the first scenario in that fact.
Yep.
So, but that's all I'm saying. It's a clarification of, it's an approved organization by this board, all documentation's up to date.
Yep.
And then we can approve it and then submit it to the next meeting minutes that there was a request and it was approved.
Yep.
At the next meeting.
All right, I'll make a, can I make a motion on that?
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to allow the rec chair to make decisions in regard to use of talent hall on emergency notice without the need for a special meeting.
Right, talent and fields or just talent?
Talent and fields, yeah.
Right, this motion is a second.
Second.
All right, discussion.
I would say the chair or the vice chair, in case you're not reachable for some
country.
reason.
You good with that? friendly
Yeah,
amendment?
and honestly, I think, from my standpoint, I would throw it out to the board just for my own sake of sanity, just to be like, hey, does anybody know of anything going on? Because I don't always remember,
Right.
so I'd just say, hey, got this request, everybody okay with that, so.
Yeah, so it sounds like
I
we
agree.
want to get consensus, but not necessarily like a vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the other thing that I'd offer on this is that I'd want to bring it back to the town administrator to kind of view it from the lens of 91A to make sure that's kind of in line with what we need to do, that we read it into the next meeting minutes. That's previously approved organization. All our communications are publicly available upon request anyway. So the chair would have to notify in writing to the party requesting.
Yeah.
But that sounds
Yep.
like, yep.
Makes sense. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. We have a motion is second. Is there further discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, 301. And I will check with Kim, make sure that's good, and we'll revisit it if not, but otherwise, it sounds like we have a process that, make sure folks have a building to play in.
When it's
It's
raining,
come up, yeah.
because that's really what we're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, yep. All right, next item under new business, removal of the temporary fences at Roy, which have been very helpful during the season, but I know been a challenge for mowing and other things, but. So
Yeah, I
who's,
think Mike brought this up.
I brought this up. Dan DeForney reached out and asked if they would be removed in time for soccer practices, which begin next week, where we approve the field for their use.
Yep,
So they can't practice with those fences up.
sure.
So
Who put the fences up? Softball?
Bucks softball. Or I don't know who's in charge of them now, and technically.
It's Litchfield softball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they would need to be removed like Sunday at the latest or Monday morning at the latest. I don't know when practice is on Monday. So sometimes, it's before school starts. So I know in the past, sometimes they've gone early morning practices as opposed to, school time. But it makes sense, like, we approved it for soccer use, and now soccer's ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't know when softball, I'm assuming that, the Plex will want to back up when they have the tournament, which is fine, but again, they're removable and
Yep.
for a reason, like in and out and go from there.
All right, so we need to have a communications to Litchfield Youth.
Yeah. I didn't honestly, until I read the field pros, I didn't realize that it was being such a obstacle for mowing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's adding, an extra hour
Oh,
or two.
oh, yeah, definitely.
And,
bet.
yeah.
All right, so we need to reach out to softball.
Softball.
Are you texting away to them right now?
Are you texting softball right now?
Look at that.
Sounds like they need to be out by Sunday, just in case there's a
Yeah.
early morning.
All right, so Andy's on it, and there's no need for the motion because Andy's already actualizing the piece here, so, okay. So we'll check on that, we'll double check later in the week, to make sure it's all
Right.
good. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to old business. Pickleball courts. So Chris had hoped to join today, but he is hopefully away, enjoying some time, or struggling to get online from where he is located. But he did do the good work of looking into a couple quotes for getting a pavilion at the new pickleball courts, to see what might be affordable with remaining impact fees, or at least to give us a scope of what we would need to look at for a project. So you pass those along to me. I don't know if they went out to the full group.
Don't think
Like the proposals?
Yeah,
He emailed it to everyone
yeah, okay,
today, yeah.
all right. So as folks can see, they range from $24,000 to $44,000, all of which kind of put us outside of the remaining funds available in the current impact fees.
Where was this proposed to go?
So
At the end of the parking spots, or no, off to
no,
the
so
side?
it's set up. You got the 4 and then the 2. There's like that little green space that's
Right.
up against the
Yeah,
where we couldn't put the 2 other courts. That's where
Right.
we go.
and we're allowed to put a structure there?
We are. Yep. Yep. As far as as long as it doesn't get too
Into
close
the
to-
wetlands and everything?
Yeah.
And 20 by 30 is the size of the pavilion at Sawmill now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that was 20 by 40. I can find that out, actually. But yeah, I mean, the one, like, let's put it this way, the quote, I gave him the builder who built the Sawmill
Mhm.
one, and it's already 10 grand more than it was when we built the Sawmill one, but that was 2019-ish, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, much has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah, I'm like, I thought it was kind of big, actually, even for that area, it seems.
How big is
like-
it?
I'm guessing someone, it says 20 by 30.
I would assume he measured it though. He probably.
Right.
Would that be allowed? Just because I know they kind of squeeze that in there for setbacks and stuff.
That's what he was asking. I think that it is, as long as it's not within that buffer zone
buffer
of
zone.
the, yeah. So I think at this point, we're not in a position to accept any of the proposals. Just 'cause
Right.
they're all out of
Yeah.
what we think we can do. So we'd have to come back to it another time.
Yeah.
Good to know. Certainly getting a lot of activity down there. This would be a welcome feature.
Yes, there's a ton of activity
Packed
down there.
It's awesome.
Yep.
That was great.
All right, so we good in the pavilion for now?
Yep.
All right, and then there is a request to approve the purchase of an artificial turf rug.
Yeah,
I assume this was from Chris as well, but that's for it to,
Where would that go?
right at the, outside the entrance.
All
To
the
the
entrance?
pickleball courts.
Which entrance?
Good question.
I think the one in the middle.
I was
The one in the middle?
There's a
one in
little
the
bit of
middle.
a walk there maybe, and is tracking dirt up on there, I think.
Okay,
I think that's what he's thinking. I don't know for sure, but that would be my guess.
okay.
That's the one that gets the most use.
Yeah.
And if you
It does.
put it on the handicapped one, it might be more in the way than,
That's true.
than helpful.
Right.
Is that big enough
I assume he measured it.
by 6?
Like, honestly, like,
Yeah.
knowing Chris, I assume he
Yeah.
measured it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems small to me.
Well, it really is just to stop it dirt from the traffic, right? It's not meant to
Yeah.
be the end
I
all.
mean,
be all.
the gateway itself isn't more than 6 wide,
Right, no, I'm thinking the length
10 feet.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we certainly ought to put something in there. If we could get something a little bit bigger, for less than $100,
Right.
I would get as big as we can get for, I don't know, 100 and a quarter, just to pull a number out of
You
the
could get a red carpet.
There
Yeah,
we
there
go.
we go.
Well, it's a red turf carpet.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of an outdoor artificial turf rug for protection of the pickleball ball courts, for no more than $100. That way, if he needs to get a little bigger one or something, he can do that. To come out of, do we have to say which line item?
No, we don't.
Okay.
But well, okay. Yeah.
There is one somewhere.
Yeah, no, we do. We have some.
Well, you could, it's under the, it could be under the,
Under the impact fees.
impact fees.
Right.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a
impact fees.
second?
I will second.
Thank you. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries 400. All right. All right, next we will move to the CIP and proposing projects that we would want to include on the CIP list. So I have a number here from Chris and Judy for discussion, but would like to open the conversation for potential lists, would like to pare it down to our top 5, ballpark some numbers, and then after this meeting, I'll use the forms that CIP has and draft those for circulation. We are slated to present on September 7th.
Mhm.
All right, so I'll open the floor for CIP projects.
One of them for me, it keeps coming up, and we've talked about it in the past, but is floors at Town Hall. They're in rough shape. I don't see us getting another new building, so I think we need to do something to the building that we have.
Yep, I agree. I think that's.
And I would say, guesstimate, I'm gonna guess a new floor in there would be $100,000, or less. I don't,
More?
more? You think?
Well, cost of wood, and then you're doing stuff to the wood, and we know what the cost of wood's like right now,
Yeah.
so,
We might have to replace or reinforce some of the.
yeah,
Under-
you're talking about understructure and everything too,
So we
so,
say 150,
200,
200, 200,000?
which probably could get us a new building, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly, I can't, with costs, with material costs, construction costs, we're looking at a pavilion outside costing 25,000-ish, that's 20 by 30. And you're talking about some, holes, some cement, some posts and whatever. As opposed, and now we're talking about an area bigger than that,
Yeah. No, you're right.
which is all wood,
Finished hardwood.
finished hardwood with probably supporting structure under it.
All right, 200,000 it is.
All right.
And
I mean-
we'd probably be short.
Yeah.
But I agree, it's our biggest need. If we're gonna continue to put lipstick in a pig, then our biggest need is to replace that floor.
I don't think the pig's going away. That's
I don't think so either.
Yeah. So we better take care of it.
all right. That's my number one.
All right, that's a good one. That's a good one.
What about a entryway on the front end of Talent Hall?
Yeah.
Covered entryway. so
like
people
a
can.
mezzanine area that you could come in, take your shoes off, and parents could wait, so you're not sitting on
Mudroom
the stage.
kind of
Yeah.
space.
Yep.
Well, again,
Is it-
are we changing the front? Or like we do that on the stage? We don't use the stage for anything else. So the question is, if we're gonna leave the stage, then we just continue to direct traffic back there. Like, doing something in the front would be great, because why? We don't want to make people walk an extra 40 feet to the back. I mean, handicap, they still come in through through the front, and
That's the only way.
but that's the only way. But that's fine. That's always acceptable. But like, for everyone else coming in the back and removing your shoes and doing it on the stage, we basically already have that area set up. So why would we spend money to
Build the same area.
build the same area
Same area on the other end.
on the other end? Because people don't want to walk around the back.
Can we just put like $2 million down and just replace that building as our CIP?
There you go.
You know,
I don't know what it would cost. I have no idea. I'm guessing.
right. I don't know either. You're like, and realistically, I mean, honestly, could you do it if, would it make more sense for us to take the whole footprint of that building out and, have a little pavilion, a little entryway to walk in, and then the rest of it court? Heck yeah, it'd be a lot better of an idea to do that, but now we're talking about what? Gutting it, and redoing it, and, who knows what that costs?
Yeah, and the footprint isn't a.
Oh, it's not
regulation style.
it's not a big enough footprint. If you get to that point, do you start having to bring things up to code?
Probably.
Yeah.
So Judy also had a new entryway on Talent, and just my own opinion on Talent. I mean, that building is just throwing good money after bad, is my personal opinion. So I know there's not an appetite to replace it. I think the long game on Talent is to have it replaced with a actual modern community center that has, the assets that would be both attractive for, athletic purposes, but also social gathering.
Correct.
And so that's a long-term plan thing. So I find it hard to put money into Talent, because I think it's just a waste. I don't disagree for all the reasons, and if we're gonna limp along, the floor and entryway, these are all things that help maintain what we have. I'm just not in favor of it, because I think it should be replaced. The town, certainly where we are, for the growth of the town, the activity the town gets, the requests that we get, it would, that's ultimately what would address that. I know there's not an appetite for it in town right now, but the assets that would bring and the options it would open up for folks that are well beyond just our rec leagues, right? Would be
Correct.
significant.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for 10 years.
Yeah.
We've been saying it for 10, I've been saying it for 10 years.
Uh,
I know they've been talking about that before those 10 years, but like, legitimately, you're in the last board, like the last piece of linoleum on that floor. The trying to upgrade the security around it, trying to deal with the stage, trying to deal with whatever in that building, the bathrooms, the heating system.
Yeah.
We just keep spending money to a project which legitimately, when it comes to the winter time, we use that thing every day, all
day.
the time.
All day.
And how in this town that hasn't become like the biggest the biggest priority, because we talk about, if it was a little bit more modern, how many other activities you could do in it, besides having a conference room for meetings and having other teams in there for practices over the winter. And hey, maybe if it was we're going to come up with a new building, maybe there is a chargeback, a small one, but a small chargeback to try to bring us into, how about the later half of the 20th century? You mean, let alone the 21st century, and that's what really it comes down to. But that's it. We've been talking about it for years. We've been talking about years and years and years. What do you do? I don't know.
So do we put that on the list, not expecting it's gonna get accepted, but just to continue to, you don't want it to, you wanna keep it in front of people?
Yeah, see, this is kind of my problem, like with this town is that we get all these nice new things like the pickleball courts, but we don't have any money to maintain it.
Right.
So
Oh, right.
unless we set money aside and actually do this stuff, we're just gonna have another facility in town that's gonna be like the tennis courts that are all cracked and
Right, you have to have continual maintenance. You have to
have a
figure out how to
a
do it.
maintenance
And
plan.
a lot of times it's the organizations in town who end up helping out to keep things moving along in terms of like
Yeah.
continual upkeep of, facilities.
But the CIP.
it's a bigger discussion than CIP.
It is a bigger discussion, CIP, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's actually a discussion, it's not our discussion, it's actually the CIP committee's discussion to be talking about this. Like,
No,
this is one of
agreed.
their discussions they should be having about
Right.
what goes forward and how do you fund these things, how do you fund the upkeep? Because if you're just looking to knock off a capital improvement project and be done and then walk away, you're right. It ends up like the high school track.
Yep.
They build the high school track, then they cut maintenance for all those years, and we had to replace the high school track because
Yeah.
it was past the point you could repair it because the maintenance always gets cut. Well, that's when you're planning these future projects, you not only have to plan the project, you have to plan the upkeep of all the projects. And how are you gonna generate, is it on the taxpayers? Is it generating revenue from who uses it? Is it a combination? I mean, they've been talking, how many times has there been a mention of a turf field in town? Great, whatever. A turf field, is it viable? I don't know. But it would be one of those things where, could it be viable if there was some overall plan of building it, maintaining it, and using other funds from usage to do that? Sure. I mean, there have been plenty of places in this state, in Massachusetts, which have built turf fields and paid them off within 5 years because they charge usage and everything. But it's a plan. It's a plan, and you need staff to have that plan. You
Right.
can't have
an actual staff. Yeah.
6 people, 7 people on a volunteer board doing it for a budget of $100,000 a year.
Nope.
Not gonna work.
Agreed. So
Yeah, I mean,
We got item number 1?
well,
all right, let's all go home.
I mean, so we can, a new community center, that's gigantic, right? So I think, we do need to present things to the CIP. It might be something that we could say, hey, this is something that's clearly a long-term need, huge capital project.
Yep.
We're not looking at this in the short term. Here's all of the ways you can fix town hall in the short term, which are more viable and practical. But
Yep.
I think we can raise it up there as like, this is something you all should consider.
I think we should probably do both routes, you
Yeah.
know, and say, hey, these are our 2 possible options to, you have to decide what you think you want to do and go to the voters with.
Yeah, pick a lane, right? Just
Pick a lane.
Pick a
patch
lane.
it, and that's what we're gonna
Yeah.
do. And
Yep.
I mean,
I mean,
it's-
I'd say we could add the tennis courts on there, like fixing those up.
Yeah.
there's still the whole, playground at Sawmill, which
Yeah.
has been, somewhere in the plan since the field was built.
Fences at Sawmill need to be redone,
They definitely need to be redone.
and you're talking another 50 grand there or more, right?
Yeah, it's,
So, let me go through a couple of things that Judy and Chris submitted, which may help with brainstorming as well.
sorry.
Oh, no. Dar Pond, milfoil, deciding if we want that to be a swimmable body, and that would be a multi-year project to get it there. Town, as we talked about, additional multi-use outdoor courts for like expanded basketball courts, floor hockey, playgrounds, so like redoing the one we currently have, which has
That's
Yes.
becoming it's going to become dangerous in the
Yeah.
next several years.
Yeah, so that's certainly one, and then the sawmill one.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I mean, the one at Dara probably, since it's there already, it probably needs to be redone first, because there are dangerous portions. There are portions of that which are borderline right now.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
More seating bench areas around the parks, outdoor cooking space, grills, sign replacing outdoor restrooms, larger concession building at Roy, ice hockey rink in the winter, and then both Chris and Judy had improving security cameras around talent in the fields, sawmill pavilion and seating in the upper area of the park, as we just talked about, which since we can't do it under the current impact fees, maybe BCIP. A splash pad, that's been talked about a number of times, because we don't really have a area to cool off. Maybe if we go back to that milfoil issue, we would, but we don't currently. Tennis court repair, better drainage, and more multipurpose courts for volleyball, and storage. On mine, the playground was top of my list.
Playground
Community center notwithstanding.
at Sawmill or playground at Roy?
The Roy one is the one that I think I agree it needs to be fixed. It gets a ton of use. It's really important to
Right.
families that have
Okay.
I mean,
siblings and people.
realistically, so I mean, again, the CIP. The CIP is supposed to be for a project that's larger than
Yeah.
$50,000.
Yeah.
Or
think
was
that-
that the base? I think I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you're talking to really fit it under it. You're talking about both playgrounds, because to repair it's not going to cost $50,000, but to build one's going to be close to it. So it's basically you combine the two and you repair one, build one, and you bring it in and you're probably talking about 80,000 is my guess, somewhere around there. But that's what we're looking at. If it's a true CIP item, then something, just playgrounds in town. It's a bigger category than this one and this one. That's why benches around the thing. I'm not sure that's enough.
That's a good point.
It's not
I
big
mean,
enough.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The milfoil is because it's multi-year. It's all sorts of cleanup needed.
Yep.
But you know what I mean? When we're giving these things, we should think about those combinations,
Yes.
repair and create, put it together. It's now a CIP item that can be, it's multi-locational, but it doesn't mean it's not one item.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
The other way to cut that is to package together multiple upgrades at Roy.
That's the other
and
one,
multiple upgrades at Sawmill, the
Right.
playground and the pavilion and seating.
Yep.
And, just.
But it's creating that
Sawmill
bigger issue,
upgrades.
bigger line item, because realistically, when we're coming, we're coming piece by piece, nothing's gonna add up.
Right.
That piece and this piece and this piece aren't gonna hit that minimum.
My only worry with that is that somebody on the CIP may be really in favor of redoing floors at Dara, but not redoing the playground or something.
Well, I think,
You know what I'm saying?
I think the floors are,
Floor is a separate item.
yeah,
okay.
I think talent,
And big enough.
talent is basically its own entity. I know it's all one part of an area, but talent's really itself.
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
The other I might forget to mention was just going back to the exercise stations on Albuquerque on the bike path. But that was less than 50 as well, so to your point.
Yeah. What about lighting in the fields at either Sawmill or Roy?
Can't do it, right?
I think that you could. I don't think Roy's possible. I think it's too much in the middle of a neighborhood. I think Sawmill, you get some blowback, but depending on how you angle the lights, you might be able to do it. I mean, it'd be tough to light out, I mean, if you did it, you'd have to take those lights and shine them away from, Fallon Drive, away from that chain link fence. I don't know how much those other trees block light so they don't get to Pearson. I think, as you go further away from, as you go further away from Albuquerque, Pearson kind of veers away. So, it could be possible, but I don't know.
I thought I had heard that it was like written into their agreement when they built those fields that they couldn't do lighting at those fields. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't think.
Maybe it's just a folklore,
I don't think so. I don't believe it. I wasn't on this board committee at the time. I was on soccer. I've been on soccer since then. I don't remember that being in there.
Yeah.
But
Assuming it was possible, is it useful? Would it increase the usage of the fields?
it would increase. So this is always what it comes back around to. It would increase the usage of the fields. The high school would want to use the field more for a lot of things. And then in that case, okay, what's our compensation from
Yeah, there had to be
the school?
financial offset.
Because you're talking about, again, high school kids wear out the field more than youth.
Yep.
And it's not even close. And that field, still for some reason, it's getting better, and who knows, in 5 years, it might finally be to a point where, you know what I mean, you're not gonna rip the thing up with a couple good uses out of it, because sometimes it does. That grass is finally now, like, you can see it finally now taking hold, like the roots, because at times between, you know, different diseases coming in and out of there, crabgrass and everything over the last 6 years with the multiple switchovers in landscapers.
Yeah.
Past ones.
Yep.
It's been in and out. So it's definitely taking hold now. Like, Ryan's done a great job bringing that in and bringing that, like, deeper roots. I still don't know about the whole drainage thing. I mean, that field does what it wants to do. But as you put lights on, there will be more requests to use, and then you have
Yeah.
to, then it's probably becomes on us. There's gonna have to be some sort of real fee structure with the high school using it. Or if we're gonna be like, no, it's all like, you know, tit for tat, then okay, what do you start doing? Because they're gonna wanna have night games there. And they're gonna wanna have night games there, and my best guess is they're gonna want football games there too.
Yeah, of course.
Which then is an entirely different usage of that
It's
field.
not a
in
football
terms of
field.
How you
Alright,
rip
so
it up.
so not to get too far down that path.
Sorry.
No worries. So it sounds like lights, maybe not allowed, but I'm not hearing a strong, like, yeah, we need to do this. It sounds like it'd be a
I would
long
love to have
conversation.
lights on all of our fields,
Well,
but,
yeah.
but I don't think it's,
Be nice to have lights on at least one of them in town somewhere.
yeah.
It would, yeah.
Well, if that's, if it's in the top 5, good. If not,
It's
Well,
in
yeah.
my top 5. I don't think it's in the town's top 5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
if folks are with that for the top 5, we can do that. Sounds like there's
No,
a deeper conversation with
It's,
what that would
I
invite.
mean, depending, like, what are the other options? Like, it could roll into 5 as a
Sure could,
wish.
yeah. So we're hearing,
But-
floors of talent, repairs of talent, or community center. It's kind of 1, 2, 3 up
Yeah.
there for that issue. Playgrounds, the milfoil one, the Conservation Commission has raised that one, so I think that would be a good one to put up as well, because they have interests there. Tennis courts, we talked, remember when we first looked
adding
at,
some new tennis courts somewhere.
I mean, when we looked at patching, it was expensive. So
Yeah.
it's like if we ripped them up and redid them, which is not far off from,
What we just did for pickleball.
yeah.
Yeah, basically, I mean, you're basically the same, yeah.
Same scale.
Yeah. There's one. So splash pad. I mean, those were kind of the 5 or 6 that I had from the conversation, but I want to reflect the will of the room here. So lights would be up there. Sounds like some, not Roy, because you're right, it's,
I don't think Roy is viable, but I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, it's all quite, like, I don't know the history behind everything. I think Roy would be more problematic because the neighborhoods are right there, all around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another item that I had talked about with Steve a year or so ago, we had that concert down at Roy.
Yep.
And there's in London area, they have a summer concert series that's
Yeah.
very well attended.
It is.
I go there once in a while. But there's no stage for anybody to work from. If we had an outdoor stage with power,
That's interesting.
that would open up the possibility of having a summer concert series or other outdoor events that might otherwise, end up being inside talent or
Yeah.
or not happening at all because you just can't see
Interesting, yeah.
very well. We could put it at Roy where it was for that concert, or because of the noise and lighting concerns, maybe it could happen at Sawmill somewhere. I haven't thought about where, but some sort of outdoor, outdoor stage for outdoor events like that.
That's an interesting thought. You're right. We don't have a common place at all for something like that.
Yeah.
We just go to Londonderry for it, and they all come here to play pickleball.
All even.
Exchange.
It's an exchange program.
They want pickleball courts. I mean,
All right, so let me suggest this then to move us ahead. So, what I will offer to do is kind of craft the first draft of the actual submissions for these items that I will get out to everybody by COB Monday. So please ping me, Vice Chair, on
Yeah.
Tuesday morning if I'm delinquent.
Yep.
We'll ask that next week we review them remotely and pare them down to 5.
Yeah.
So that,
You said Tuesday morning?
yep, I'm an early riser, so you can get
Oh,
me at 5 o'clock.
I'll set it at
Ames.
4:30.
There you go.
Yell at Peter.
Yes. So I'll be in touch with CIP to give them a sense of what we're looking at, but if we can, by the end of next week,
Right.
maybe get something squared away, so that gives
Yeah.
CIP a week to review these before I come in and talk about them.
Yep.
Is that good? Anything else that we did not discuss that folks want to include in this conversation?
we talked about getting rid of town and building something new. Oh, okay, yeah.
Got that covered. Indeed. All right. Remaining on the topic of town budgeting, so the select board is beginning the process, as is the budget committee. I mean, they're not beginning, they're well into it, of the 2024 budget and the initial review of department and board committee commission submissions puts us over the tax cap by a fair number. So we may need to revisit our budget submission in the next couple weeks as that process goes forward. At this time, they are not requiring a particular cut from any budget, but I will have the opportunity to speak next month to the Board of Selectmen first, and then I think budget second in October about our budget. So we do not at this time need to propose a cut. However, I do want to be prepared to kind of speak to the impact of areas we could cut if we had to. So for example, and this is where I want to get kind of consensus on what we think the pain would be. For example, so the field maintenance, we really cannot cut that.
Landscaping.
It's the most important thing. We don't think there's,
It's 95% of our budget.
Right.
yep, it's a good market rate, and
Yeah.
it'd be extremely consequential to
Yep.
drop that or go a period of time without a
Oh, it would
service.
be-
That, yeah, so, yeah, so that takes a lot of options off the table for us.
Yeah.
So we can cut $20 out of supplies.
Yeah,
That's the rest of our budget, right?
The other 5% is, to cut that would be foolish in my mind.
Yeah, you're
I
talking,
mean, that's
what,
already.
$20,000 worth of other stuff that we,
Well, I mean, so our total submission was 147, and the field maintenance was 90. So it's
All
not
right, so there's
it's not
57.
quite that bad. But the other areas where you look to, again, it's things that aren't under control. Like electricity. I mean, the reality is we'd have to stop using talent for a period of time.
just shut
For-
off the
for the-
breakers.
For electricity and gas, right? Like those budgets, the only way to control those is to cut off access for a period of time to keep us in line with the target. Kind of same thing with custodial services. You know, we'd have to say reduce the amount of cleaning. So in looking at all these, I don't see a really good way to cut any of them without having a pretty significant impact on what those services are designed to do, which may result in lack of access for residents to talent, to a field. Like our maintenance budget, if we cannot fix something, we're gonna shut it down if it's not
Right.
safe.
Yeah.
So I think that's the risk
Which
of
we were
cutting
very
things.
fortunate this year, knock on wood, that we haven't had anything come up, you
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
Right.
we're literally at the top of our budget for,
Right.
that's why we went to, the meeting and had,
Yeah.
had a little bit extra put in, just in case, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, I would tend to put that into our budget ahead of time.
Are there any areas in here folks would suggest that we could cut without cutting off access? Because I think that's my key message is that we can cut things, they all come with a risk of shutting off talent, a field, access to.
It's, let's put it this way, I think it ends up being, if we end up having to cut something, or whatever, we may have to revisit fees. I mean,
That's.
I know that it's not anything, everyone's taxpayers and everyone's paying to use this and town facilities and whatever. But if we can't keep things open because our budget numbers won't allow us to, then the only way to do anything else is to
Yep.
figure out a way to add revenue.
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
So,
Yeah.
just to say, like, I mean, I get, again, we run on a shoestring budget. We basically, you know,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? 2/3 of it is field maintenance, which has to happen. Plenty of people, like, there's plenty of, now especially with the pickleball courts, our cross-section of facility use, be it buildings, courts, fields, is very spread out among the residents in town.
Yeah, of course.
Not just the young, not just the old, but everyone in between.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's a number that, you know, we provide a service for a more than reasonable amount.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm just wanting to get this on camera. It's, again, there is a consequence for coming and putting a stranglehold on what we have. Be it the park may not, the playground may not be usable. Town hall may not be usable. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the only other way is if we have money cut from our very shoestring budget is to figure out a way to raise money.
Yeah, I think our current budget is lower than it responsibly should be. I think it's,
I agree. I agree.
I think it's irresponsible to have it as low as it is. Because things are slowly but surely degrading over time because we're not taking care of it. The fields we're taking care of, everything else, pretty much we're not. And, tennis courts, pickleball courts, I'll predict the future 5 years down the road.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, because those are beautiful because they were not part of the budget, right? That was a.
Correct.
That's
Right.
right. Yeah.
Right. And, somebody 50, 60 years ago had the foresight to spend the money in town to build Talent Hall that gets used pretty heavily. Somebody in 2023 or 2024 ought to have some foresight in town. You know, and the other alternative, you're right, is to charge fees for, you know, anybody who's using anything in town.
It would have to be everybody. You know, you
Yeah.
can't just charge it to anybody
Oh,
that comes
any
to us.
facility, there'd be a facility usage fee.
And there would have to be a
Yeah.
facilities manager at that point. So then you're going to have a salary on top of that, right? Because if people are paying fees, they're going to expect certain services, and
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
or maybe not, but
I mean, we
Like,
could just take the fee on the application.
that's an entirely, like, we're talking about having to charge a fee to maintain minimum usage standards
Yeah.
across the board. We're not talking about adding a fee to bump up care or bump up,
right.
you know, I mean, maintenance or whatever. We're talking about, if cutting, you'd be talking about just being able to keep it minimum usage. Because the choice would be minimum usage or shut.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about adding a manager.
Right.
I mean, you're adding a manager,
But-
now you're adding what, another $100,000?
Yeah, but then you have to think about it, right? I mean, who's going to set those standards of what our minimum standard is and how much we need to charge for?
I mean,
No.
honestly, it would
Like,
be.
is it 20 grand split between 15 field uses per year? You know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of.
We honestly,
figure it
it'd be a
out.
basic fee schedule, like, you know what I mean? And you just put it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's something where you think you can recoup $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Just that little amount keeps us keeps us at a point where we aren't shutting talent down because we need to keep the heat costs under this amount or the electrical costs under this amount. You know what I mean? Or we're not taking the playground out of usage because we can't afford to buy mulch to put down so that, wood chips, not mulch, wood chips down so that it's padded enough so kids can use it safely.
Yeah, so fees is the
Yep,
alternative.
that's helpful. So we got a bit more time before we have to present, so, but I just want to be prepared for those conversations as they come, so.
Yeah.
And let folks know just kind of where we are in the process, a little bit tight for the town at the moment. I just want to be prepared to speak to our interests. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, a couple maintenance pieces for the tennis courts, and pickleball for that matter. So I know that Jason Brennan mowed the edging of there, which I know is not currently in our contract for field maintenance and is not expected from our vendor at this time, but it was certainly needed, so that was appreciated. But also some weed whacking at the tennis courts. Does someone want to speak to that? We'll put it in.
No, I just know that Jason. I don't know what
Jason.
Jason weed whacked around the,
Yeah.
or maybe he
Did
didn't
some-
weed whack, but I know he mowed
Yeah, it was the,
around all the
okay.
pickleball courts. I
Yeah.
don't. Maybe he weed whacked. I was there the other day, and it didn't seem like it wasn't weed whacked, so I probably would have noticed. But I didn't specifically think in my head, did he weed whack? You know?
All right. Yeah, but something for us to think about moving forward now that we've got that area kind of more built out.
Yeah.
All right, and the Sawmill handicap parking sign, I guess needs to be refitted. Has anyone been down there recently?
There's one down
Oh,
at the field.
Yeah,
Yeah, it came down because I'm trying to think who put them in. I don't know if Kevin had done it for us or we redid it or because in soccer. I don't think it was soccer because I don't know, it might have been because knowing Kevin, he probably would have put it in cement before.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'll go down there in the next couple days. Well,
Okay.
maybe this weekend and do it.
okay, thank
I'll
you.
have time the weekdays this week is ugly, but the weekend I'll go down there and see if I can do something with it.
All right, thank you. Other maintenance issue is reviewing our field maintenance contract, which we had established last year as potential for renewal after the first year of service based on the price point and how we feel about the quality of service. And I know you've kind of taken the lead as our point of contact with our vendor for this, so Ryan Lane could not be here tonight, sends his regrets for that, but did submit to us a proposal and an update for the second year of the contract if we accept that. If we do, we would need to take it to the Board of Selectmen to approve, but first one to start with us to see how we feel about that. And so Andy, I'll turn to you to.
Yeah, so, I mean, basically the high and the low of it is that he's honoring the same price as he gave us last year. With a caveat that there's 2 additional things that are being added to the contract, so that reflects the change in price of the contract. The first thing is the additional space around the pickleball courts, which he would maintain to a standard like he does the river access and that sort of stuff. That would be an additional.
2,500.
Is that what it was? Yeah. And then the other part that changed from his scope of work is the fences at Royal Memorial for softball. So he added a per mow rate of $93.75, just because he doesn't know when they're going to be up. If they're going to be up all season or if they're going to be up for a couple weeks. It's he figured it'd be fair that the weeks it's up, it's going to cost a little bit more.
And I agree. I mean, honestly, the work getting around that, the work having to mow around those, the work probably trimming around those, because now you're talking about, getting off and trimming. It's like, the baseball outfield fence.
Yeah.
He has to do the same sort of maintenance.
Yeah.
So it's extra money. I guess that bodes the question, how much should those fences stay up then? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how easy or difficult they are to take up and down. I don't know how much softball's out there with games, be it softball or plex, but should they be up? Like, we've left them up all summer, right?
Yeah. They've been up for a couple months now,
Right.
I think.
And the question is how have they needed to stay up? And I'm not saying like, okay, if there's something on one weekend and then something on another weekend, games or whatever, I understand leaving them up for the week. But if we're talking about there's a weekend of games and then there's 3 weeks off before games, not practices, like games, tournaments, whatever, should we be leaving them up for those 3 weeks?
No.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I've never put them up. I've never taken them down.
I guess how much is the use? Have you been there? Do you know the use
I
or
have
no?
no idea.
Okay.
It's a good question.
This is a good. This is a better question for a couple of the members who aren't here tonight.
Yes, that would be the appropriate person to.
But that's what it comes down to. Like, you know what I mean? We're incurring a cost, and you know something, realistically, if they want to be left up and we deem that they don't need it, say it's 3 weeks, well, that's fine. You can leave them up. You need to pay the extra amount to leave them up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair. My impression was that they were put up for the tournament and they were
Right.
gonna be taken down when that was over.
I mean, it was, I think it was kind of left up in the air that they'd be up and they could be taken down when they weren't needed anymore. So if it was like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
but we didn't really set a boundary on it.
No.
We
Right.
didn't say, well, you know, if you're having a tournament and then the next tournament isn't for 3 weeks, then you should take them down.
Yeah.
The expectation is they're taken down and then put back up.
Yeah.
And this is something we'd have to come up with. We'd have to come up, what's a reasonable amount of time? And if they want to leave them up, that's fine, but we're going to get charged more, therefore, just like any business in this country, we're going to pass along the cost.
Right.
All right, so I'm hearing that
Yeah.
the cost increase makes sense because it's absolutely more work for them to do, but we should have a conversation with the leagues about how much do you really need this up because it's impacting us.
Costing us.
But for the contract, it sounds like we're good by,
I mean, I think, it's more than reasonable, especially, Ryan could have come in and said, you guys are putting that fence up, we're just going to charge you. But he's basically he's being reasonable, saying, we're only going to charge you if it's there. If we don't have to do it there, then it's the same thing as before.
agree. Not for nothing. Like he could have charged us this year.
Correct.
It wasn't part of the fee,
Right.
and
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it's pretty respectable that
No.
he didn't.
I agree.
You know?
So, I mean, I think that's more than reasonable, and the extra mowing is extra mowing, like,
Yeah,
we're adding
it's-
it.
He's running a business at the end
Right.
of the day.
So,
Any other feedback you want to offer from his proposal or just overall quality?
As far as quality is concerned, couldn't be happier. The fields look amazing. The fee is fantastic. You know, I mean, it's, you know, better than I would, you know, expect out of what we get for a product. I mean, our fields look beautiful.
Yeah, they do. What do you mean? The fields are really, like, they're, you can tell that they're under a plan that's lasting because they're all coming along. And I think adding the outside cuttings to, I know it's a little, I know we offered it as 2, but the fact that we actually went that extra step to make sure they were cut around John Bryant, the landing, and the fields has definitely helped with the overall appearance of the fields. And you know what I mean, I think it's been, you know, I think Ryan's handled it that as well as like the fields themselves look great, but even those outlying areas look great.
Yeah.
And that's really what's helped everything.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things it sort of ties back to the budget issue. One of the things we talked about when we bought the tractor last year or the year before was possibility of taking back the mowing of those outside areas, and if we could do that at a lower cost. So that's just another idea on the budget cut thing, but we'd have to, you know, hire somebody cheaper to do that part of it, because it's not, you know, it doesn't require the same level of care and skill as the playing surfaces.
Yep, no, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But I don't think we're gonna count on volunteers to be
No,
doing that on a regular
you
basis.
can't count on
That's not
volunteers, and
fair.
honestly, it's like, you know,
So we'd have to
Yeah, I mean, that's $7,500 of our.
hire somebody to
Our
do
budget.
that.
Yeah.
$7,500 of the
Of our
landscaping
Yeah.
piece, yeah.
So I don't know if you could actually hire an employee in town to do it for that or not. Like
It'd be pretty marginal, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah,
that's
it would
it
beyond
would be
our-
marginal.
and that's beyond us. You know.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to hire someone, now we'd have to pay for our own gas.
Yep.
We'd have to do all those additional
Yeah.
costs. I, like, on the margins, I don't know if, I just
Might not
don't
be
think
worth
it's, yeah.
Might not be worth it.
We could put it on, like, have the newest selectmen do it, I think.
Hey, I love it. I love it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm hearing consensus that we're happy with Natticook, that
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
happy with the
Yes.
proposal, and we
Yep.
want to move it ahead to renew.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should I make a motion or?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll make a motion to move the proposal ahead to the Board of Selectmen.
All right.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Do we have to state on record what the new contract cost is?
Yeah, then I will revise my motion to say a motion to approve or move ahead the contract extension for Natticook Landscape in the amount of $90,000.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, passes 4-0-0. And thank you, Andy, for being our point of contact with Natticook.
You're welcome.
All right, couple more items. Jeff, you raised about the tennis courts, and going back to before the genesis of the pickleball courts, we were looking at the tennis courts first for their repair. Because they got a fair amount of cracks, weeds growing in them and that type of thing, and we were worried about if we don't patch them in some capacity, the changing of the seasons will invite further damage.
Yeah, I was just down there today looking at it, and there's some, you know, grass starting to grow in some of the cracks. And they're getting big enough that over the winter, you know, I think we're probably at about a breaking point, literally, that those cracks are just going to explode with the frost. We could do some fairly simple patching of those, and it might, you know, stretch it for a couple years.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, a few $100s. We'd have to look more carefully at, you know, what products are available and how much we need, but, you know, it's between between $100 and $400 is my guess. And we can get you can get it in different colors, so you can get it to more or less match the red court surface that's there. We just, dig out the grass that's there and fill it in with that patch, and use like a putty knife kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, so this is something we can organize as a little volunteer group here.
So, yeah, I think it's, a couple of people can work on it, and, if we can spend, not more than $500 on it, if we have that.
We do, and we have not tapped into some of those funds that we put in specific for kind of
Yeah,
these things.
so I think that's a good use of, again, trying to the minimal possible level of maintenance.
Efficient use.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So I'll hold on a motion until we have quorum again,
Okay.
to approve that, but
He just wants to hit the over.
that's that's right, you're right. I'll move on. Jason Brennan with a Litchfield beautification talked about the cinder blocks down at Sawmill, right at the edge there before
Yes.
the interparking lot. He said he might have enough of the white fencing left over from their previous projects. Want to see if we might want to remove the blocks and put up fences, if that might be aesthetically pleasing, or if there's a better reason to leave things as they are.
Okay, I'm gonna say fencing. How strong is the fencing?
I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it might not look as pretty, those cinder blocks have been, ever since Kevin put those cinder blocks in, they've been very effective.
I'm sure they have been, yes.
It stopped, like we had rope up before that, like we had like some, like a couple posts and strung across. Nothing has seemed to keep people out of that circle as well as having those cinder blocks sitting there. And while we may, if he wants to put the fencing next, like on one side of them, maybe, but I wouldn't remove the cinder blocks, because let's put it this way: fencing can be vandalized relatively easily.
Yep.
Those cinder blocks aren't going anywhere.
And who
Simply
cares
said.
if they get vandalized?
You know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you put a fence on, in the front of it, so it looks better
Right.
as you're coming
But
in.
it's not gonna stop, like, someone deciding to write on it or do something on it either. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's a sad thing to say, but the nicer something is, the more people wanna,
Yeah.
some vandalism seems to happen to it.
Yeah. I agree.
You know what I mean? It's, like the pavilion at Sawmill. Once that thing went up, someone had to do something. And then we put nice new picnic tables under there that were built for us by, volunteers did them, and then those were vandalized. Like,
Yep.
the cinder blocks have been there, and I'm not sure that anything's ever been done to those cinder blocks. They're just there.
All right, so we'll keep them there. I'll see if Jason wants to do anything around them, but we're gonna leave the cinder blocks.
Right.
Just incorporate the cinder block into the design.
I'm gonna start putting those. That's gonna replace the fencing around Sawmill. We're gonna just put cinder
just
blocks
put
around
cinder-
it.
All the way around.
We should
The-
take Town Hall down block by block and use those.
Oh yeah. Those aren't going anywhere. Recycle. You know what I mean? Like,
A lot of cinder blocks.
half-life. What's the half-life on those? You're like,
All right, thank you. All right, Jeff, I'll jump back to you.
Do we need to make a motion to spend money on the tennis court thing?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to spend no more than $500 on patch materials for the tennis courts.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carries 400.
Okay.
I'm sure you have to figure out what budget number it comes out of, but we'll trust you.
You got it. I'll find
Pick the
one.
account.
Yeah.
All right, just a couple acknowledgements. Steve Gannon raked and took care of the beach down at Dara. Looks much better. Thank you, Steve, for doing that. As I mentioned before, Jason Brennan took care of the pickleball courts, mowing down things there so it looks extra sharp. And Andy, you took care of the driveway at the cornfields. So thank you for doing so. Getting that cleaned up, much appreciated. Last thing was perhaps updating park rule signs, making sure that we were consistent at all parks to make sure folks knew the rules, dawn to dusk, Litchfield residents and guests only. Honestly, I don't know at each park what the current signage is.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
overnight
I
parking.
didn't see one down at Innis.
Yeah.
I saw the one at,
There's none in
Sawmill.
Innis. We talked
Okay.
about putting one down there a few years ago,
yeah,
and we never did. Probably at about the same time we put the one at Sawmill.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
given the events of the last couple of weeks, it might be good to have
Right.
one at Innis.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we modeled the one at Sawmill off the one at Roy Memorial.
Just scale it down.
It's smaller, yeah.
Yeah.
And I may have had something to do with something about pets being on the outside of the fence, but you know.
Yeah.
All right, so let me delay this one until, I know Chris had been looking at signs anyway, so before we get to like approving an amount, perhaps we can check with Chris between meetings. But I do think it would be a good idea, just so public or anybody else who wants to frequent our properties has something that we can point to if they're in violation of
Right.
the
Yeah.
policies. Okay, thank you. Is there other business folks would like to bring up?
I think that's enough.
That's something. Yeah. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion?
I'm gonna talk for 6 more minutes.
I knew you would.
No discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those abstain, motion carries. Next meeting of Litchfield Recreation Commission will be on Tuesday, September 12th. Thank you, folks.
I will not be here.
All right, with notice from Jeff. All right. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thanks.